There's our friend right now, going from flower to flower, doing that pollination.
Maybe you can get a close-up of these bees. There's over 1 million bees in the fields down here. Most of them honeybees. Hey folks, welcome to another Farmer Friday video. We're here at our Pumpkin Seed Hill farm. It happens to be a Saturday in August, and we do keep some beehives to help pollinate our crop. And here we are at the hives, and we've got our David Blocker. How are we doing, David?
Good. How are you?
Good. So tell me a little bit about what's going on here. What are you planning on doing?
So this is a colony that's overwintered, and during the swarm season they decided to swarm, so I split it into two halves, and I've got a hive on the bottom with a queen, and then boxes of surplus honey, and then a hive on the top. And what I'm going to do today is find the queen in this half, take a couple of frames of brood out with her to start a small colony for next year, and then I'll recombine the rest of the bees with this half of the colony.
Okay.
And hopefully this colony can make some honey with the rest of in the fall nectar flow.
Okay. So I happen to be standing out around here. I'm not going to get stung, right?
No, I don't think so.
You don't say that with a lot of confidence.
No, these bees are pretty gentle.
Very good.
But
so now you're putting a little smoke in there, and what does that do?
it causes the bees to feed on nectar or honey, and so their honey stomachs get full and they're less prone to sting. They're doing something else. But the most important function of it is that it blocks the alarm pheromone that the bees release when you open the nest.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, that alarm pheromone, which would trigger them to defend the hive, is
suppressed.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
So I'm just going to see if I can get this honey super off of this colony. It's usually pretty glued down pretty well at this time of the year because I haven't been in it.
Wow, and so that's just basically the honey sticking them together, huh?
Well, it's propolis.
Propolis.
And wax.
And wax, okay.
So, there's bees in there.
Wow.
And then this is the nest. And we're going to take this off.
Okay.
So, just give them a little bit of smoke.
Give them a little smoke, and that disturbs them to kind of suppress that
response. Okay. So she's usually going to be in the center of the nest.
Okay.
Where they're raising young bees.
Okay.
So,
holy moly!
So on the outside of the nest, you have honey and nectar. That's normal, and here you can see that here's a full frame of pollen, and then there's some honey here. So this means that the nest extends out to this frame because this is where they need pollen to raise brood.
I see.
Yeah. So I'm just going to set this aside. She's not on this frame.
Okay.
So as expected, we see a lot of brood here. There's eggs and larvae in this side of the frame. Here are some young bees emerging from their cells.
Wow.
And then we see a lot of young bees here that are kind of white and downy, really fuzzy.
Yep.
That's what young bees look like.
Okay.
And we'll just give this a quick look to see if she might be on this frame. Don't expect it because there's not really any place for her to lay right now. So I'm just going to set this aside.
Put that one aside. On to frame number 3.
Yeah, and you can see here, this is what I was talking about. This is propolis. This is resin that the bees gather from trees and shrub. We call it bee glue.
Okay.
Because it sticks everything together, and they use it to seal up gaps.
Okay.
It has antifungal and antibacterial properties.
Oh.
So it's used in some products like Tom's toothpaste, Tom's of Maine.
Yeah, right.
He uses propolis in that because of its natural antibacterial properties. I'm just going to take this propolis off, and there's some wax here on the top too.
So that's not something you have enough volume of to harvest, however?
Well, actually, you know, when you scrape down all of the frames,
quite a bit.
Yeah, you actually have, you know, I probably have about 15 or 20 pounds of it at the end of the season, and that can be sold to companies that use propolis in their products. So here you can see, here's a full frame of brood. You can see here that there's actually some pupae that have been uncapped by the bees, which indicates that these are cells maybe that are infested by a parasite. There's a mite of the bee which causes the bees all the problems, really. And here's actually some more. So I don't like to see that, but the fact that I see it means that these bees can sense that that cell has a mite in it, and it's reproducing, and they uncap it, and they remove the pupa, and they break the mite's life cycle. Okay. So that's actually a good trait.
So they're taking care of their hive.
Yes, they are indeed. So.
But no queen.
The queen's not here. Take a quick look on the next frame. Don't see her, but there's a lot of propolis on the sidewalls here. So let's just take a... We need to find her, because we're going to start our colony for next year with her. Okay. Here's a drone right here. That's a male bee. You can see they're quite a bit larger than all of these worker females. So all of these bees have duties in the hive, either caring for the developing brood, cooling the hive, removing dead bees, undertaker bees.
Everybody's got a job.
Everybody has a job, and then of course once they're about 3 weeks old, they will leave the hive and start gathering food, or either nectar or pollen or water to cool the hive.
I see. Okay.
So she's not here. We'll find her.
The queen is in hiding.
She's probably running around a little bit now that we've opened up the nest. But you can see here the bees are very gentle, right?
Yeah, I'm actually surprising myself. I am standing 2 feet away from a beehive that you are opening, and I am wearing no protective gear. Maybe that's not a smart thing, I don't know, but...
Yeah, generally you should, you know, because, you know, the bees could have an off day.
Yeah.
But we like to work bees when it's sunny, because all of the adults are out in the field foraging, which makes the remaining bees here in the hive, they're mainly young bees or nurse bees, and so they're usually not very defensive. That's why we like to work bees on nice sunny days like this.
I see. As the sun comes out, too.
Yeah. So again, we see some more of this uncapping behavior, and we'll have to find the queen here. She's got to be here.
So we have found the queen. And there she is. Pretty good size.
And I'm just going to...
And so you're going to just take a Sharpie marker?
Don, we are almost out of corn.
Yeah, it's a special non-toxic permanent marker.
Right, it's not just a Sharpie you get at Staples, yeah.
I'm just going to clip one pair of her wings.
Okay, now what will that do?
Well, you know, it's going to prevent her from flying with a swarm next season, and so there she is.
That's the queen with the red dot.
So we'll just let her go.
Let her go, off she goes, and now she's
off into the hive. So, yep, and I'm gonna just add a frame, and then I will feed
There's
this.
a fresh frame, okay.
It's a frame of foundation that they'll draw out into comb, and in order to do that, they need some source of carbohydrates.
Okay.
So, since this is a small colony, I'll feed them some sugar syrup now.
Just to get them started.
To get them started, right. So, good. Everything's going well. And
So I know I asked the question earlier, but I wasn't recording. How far will the bees go to gather their pollen from the hive?
they'll go as far as they need to, which is about a 2.5 mile radius from
Wow.
the colonies.
Okay. And so as I'm looking at these hives, would each one of these stacks be described as a hive?
Yes, a hive or a colony.
A hive or a colony. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 colonies, is that right?
Right.
And so how many bees would we have here, probably?
Well, you know, in a typical colony, around midsummer, there's about 40 to 50,000 bees.
Wow. Wow. That's terrific. So busy bees at work making some delicious honey.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks very much, David.
Exciting time. I would call this full bloom for this variety. So you can see all of these flowers that are out, where you're noticing a few wild bees doing some pollination for
Look
us.
at that honeybee right there. That's one honey of a honeybee. And they're just so incredibly happy in this field. And the trees are happy, and that makes me happy. Just take a deep breath. You can smell that fragrance.
I gotta say, it actually smells like honey in this field.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes,
Yeah.
This is a honey of experience. And we're just, couldn't be more happy with the extent of all these wildflowers. So that's just one of our passions at the Jones Family Farm, is to create a biological ecosystem that favors the balance of nature. And I think we've hit some great success.